The deal we have agreed today unlocks a bright future for the UK. Outside the EU, we will be able to strike new trade deals around the world and open up new markets in the world's fastest-growing economies. We will be able to focus our energies on the many other important issues that matter to the British people at home.
This is a big deal now coming to a head. Prime Minister Theresa May, after the UK and leaders of the EU reached an agreement, apparently, on the terms of Brexit. Still needs approval for a vote. Nigel Farage, one of the fathers of the Brexit movement, not happy with the deal. He's the former leader of the UK Independence Party and a Fox News contributor. Thanks for coming back, Nigel, and greetings to you from London. What do you think of this deal? What does it look like to you?
It looks like the worst deal in history to me. Do you know what she did yesterday, Mrs. May, was she signed up to something that is legally binding, and what it means is we give away about 60 billion sterling in return for a period of some years during which we have to accept all EU rules, new ones as well, without having any say over how those laws are made, which is what I would call taxation without representation. We don't get back, at this stage of the game, control of our borders. We're not able, for some years, to do trade deals. And here's the worst bit. The worst bit is we will only be allowed to leave the EU's customs union if they agree to it as well. It's rather like me saying, I'm going to voluntarily put myself in prison, and when I want to leave, you will let me go, won't you? Literally, we've signed up for purgatory. It's madness. It's legally binding that we're stuck in this thing and we can't get out unless they agree. And why should they agree? So actually, what she signed up to is us indefinitely being rule takers from the European Union. Now, the one upside is, if this deal's approved, we do leave the European Union legally on the 29th of March at 11 p.m. next year. The downside is what she signed us up to gives us even less sovereignty than we had as European Union members. It's a bad deal. It's the worst deal in history, and I very much hope the British Parliament votes it down.
Nigel, how do you make that case in possible consequences? How do you quantify that, and how you think this is such a bad deal?
Well, it's a bad deal, firstly, because it gives away too much money. It's a bad deal because it traps us in something we can't leave unless the other side agrees. And it's a bad deal because it could go on for years and years and years. And it's not honouring the vote. You know, we had a referendum in this country, the greatest ever democratic exercise in the history of our nation. A majority said leave, and Mrs. May is trying to please both sides. It's sort of a half in, half out. Never, never land. It means the prospects of a trade deal between us and the USA have been kicked way, way into the future. We're not taking our opportunities, and I actually think that it's so bad that I think Parliament will vote it down, which will lead, between now and Christmas, if I'm right, to a very major crisis indeed.
Interesting. Another story regarding Facebook. This goes back to Cambridge Analytica, and just to refresh our viewers' minds, there was a fellow who worked for Cambridge Analytica, and he sent out a quiz via Facebook, right? And millions and millions of people took this quiz, and in return, he was able to capture their personal information. Later, that information was sold to whomever came to bid on that information. Facebook says this. What's the DCMS, by the way? What's that stand for?
That's our Department of Culture, Media and Sport. It's a government department in this country. Got
it. Here's the statement from Facebook, then I'll let you respond to it. The materials obtained by the DCMS committee are subject to a protective order, the San Mateo Superior Court restricting their disclosure. We have asked the DCMS committee to refrain from reviewing them and to return them to council or to Facebook. What is the point of this story as it relates to the consumer that they need to understand?
Well, here's the point. The great conspiracy theory is that we won the referendum in this country because, firstly, it was all funded by the Russians, but there's no evidence of that at all. And the second conspiracy theory is the great British public were brainwashed by people like Cambridge Analytica putting out online adverts. And it's actually very interesting that our official information commissioner, he's the regulator for all of this stuff, produced a report a couple of weeks ago saying there was little evidence that Cambridge Analytica played a significant role at all. This is all the establishment doing their best to do down Brexit. You know, the European Union is the epicentre of the globalists' project, and they're not taking Brexit lying down.
Very interesting. Nigel Farage weighing in on all of that for us. By the way, what do you, based on everything you just said on the Facebook response, what do you think the future is of the company and leadership there?
Well, I met Mr. Zuckerberg a few months ago in the European Parliament. I challenged him directly, and I think, I must say, firstly, they should now be classified as publishers because they're not a platform for all ideas. But I'll make a prediction. Sir Nick Clegg, the former Deputy Prime Minister to David Cameron, whose leadership period led to the demise of the Liberal Democrats, whose prominent role for Remain in the referendum led to Leave winning, if he's now head of Facebook's global affairs, given his track record, I think I'll sell my shares in Facebook.
We'll see where it all goes. Nigel Farage, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.